My topic was immigration in the school system and how it affected and the history behind it. And I found out because I'm pretty familiar with immigration itself and the process but what I wasn't familiar with was the history behind it and how far back it dates into the school system. And I found out that it dates pretty far back into the school system. For example, there was a court case, Plyler versus Doe, in which the state of Texas had implemented a couple of new laws that said that illegal immigrants could not attend public school for free, and they implemented those laws because in the 1970s there was a huge boom of immigration into the United States from Mexico, and um, they noticed that there was a growing population of illegal immigrant children coming into the public school system, so they implemented the laws, and soon after that, there was a couple of cases that were court cases that were brought up, and so that's where Plyler versus Doe came into place, and there were several arguments and there were several stances that they took into court into the Supreme Court case. But the biggest thing about the case was that they argued that the laws were against the 14th Amendment, and the 14th Amendment said that the 14th Amendment prohibits any state from denying to any person within its jurisdiction equal protection of the laws. And so people that were for the Texas laws stated that the illegal immigrants were not citizens, therefore the 14th Amendment did not apply to them. And people that were against the laws stated that the 14th Amendment says that within its jurisdiction, which means anyone that lives within the state of Texas and within the United States in general. Um, so that was I could personally see both sides of the case, um, but there were the the big question when brought into the Supreme Court was, does the 14th Amendment equally protect the Equal Protection Clause apply to school-age children who were not admitted legally into the United States? Um, there were the people that were against the laws said that the illegal immigrants really didn't exist in the country and that it wasn't fair to provide them with free public education, and they also said that their parents aren't paying taxes. Why are they getting a free education out of it? And that it would only increase the amount of illegal immigration into the country, and even more so the state, since it's a border state, um, because they're getting a free education, and that they would just use the education to go back to Mexico to start a career. So they thought it was unfair to give free education out. But the people that were against it, the court case or against the laws, stated that it was unfair for a child that it's not their fault that the parents brought them into the country illegally. It's not fair for them to not get an education, um, and then what are you going to do with all the children that aren't educated? Are they just going to be sitting around at home? And what happens when they grow up? Are they just not going to be educated, so they're just going to be having to do low minimum wage jobs? And is that really fair? And then, their big argument was that it's unconstitutional because it violates the 14th Amendment. Um, but at the very end, they just they cited that the Texas laws were unconstitutional, and that was overturned, and that was banned from charging any any student at all um, any tuition fees or anything for not being legally present in the United States. Um, and from there on, you can't ask any student or anyone in the public school system if they're illegal, or you can't um, bring their family uphold the law saying that they're uh, not legally present within the United States. Another part of the argument that I found really interesting, having to do nothing with Apply versus Doe and more recent history in the past couple of years that I've actually been a part of, because I was brought into the country illegally as a child, and it was really hard knowing that when I graduate high school, which is the end of public schooling, I might not have a future with college, because college, you have to have a social security number to be a part of it. And so growing up, I always knew that that was going to be something that I'd have to deal with at one point or another. But when it ended up happening was, in 2010, the Dream Act was brought to vote in the Senate to have a possibility to make it, and Dream Act would allow students just like me, which were called dreamers, that were brought into the country illegally as a child, to have a social security number, and they wouldn't be citizens, but they'd have a lot of benefits, and to get all these benefits, they'd have to end up serving in the military for a couple years, or going to college for a couple years, which I really thought, in looking at the bill in detail, I thought that was really good. But it ended up failing the Senate, and um, last year President Obama actually announced into to the United States, that he was going to he was going to give out a permit stay for, like, a visa for 2 years that's renewable for the same type of people, dreamers, that were brought into the country illegally as a child, and they would have benefits, as in they'd be able to work legally and attend school legally, and go to college and join the military and do all these things. But that's not a permanent solution. That's only like a solution until they find something else to do, because at any moment that the permit, after 2 years, it could be um, turned down by the, like, for example, if the next president doesn't like it, he can actually take it away. So there has to be a different solution or another path to citizenship that has to be brought up. But for the moment, that's really helped everyone in the public school system that was brought into the country illegally as a child. But that was in general all the information, the three big points that I got out of doing my research paper. And um, the argument for, I do think that um, anyone that is brought into the country illegally should have an opportunity to be a citizen, and to work, and to go to school, and to provide something to this country.